Hello and welcome to Access Astrology for the week of June 17th, 2025. This is Heather Rowan Robbins. I'm speaking to you tonight from Ronan, Montana, and I am joined by Mark.
Mark Waltz, joining from New York City.
And we hope to have Ann Ortley here soon, but we won't know till she pops in. So, what a week it's been. I'm going to put the chart up for today and we're going to talk about the aspects coming in. We've also got the summer solstice and charts for last weekend, Minnesota chart, the USA chart, and then we'll take we have questions that we will do our best to answer. So tonight here, the Mars has just left Leo and gone into Virgo. And I think that's going to be a huge relief. I mean, Mars in Virgo can get persnickety. I've got it natally. I can sense it. It can get persnickety, and but it wants things to work. But there's less ego issues. Mars in Leo is a lot more fun in general on a good day, but it's also it can bring. I mean, the ego issues have just been off the charts. Mars went into Leo, and we got to watch the Trump, Musk brouhaha, and we've been watching the exacerbation of that anger and fear coming in. And I think I see Anne. We'll add Anne to our stage. Hello, Anne. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, good. It's good to see you. We've got the chart up for today. We've got the summer solstice and a few interesting charts from the weekend.
Yay.
So, Mars in Virgo. Woo!
I'm so excited. We love Mars in Virgo. I woke up this morning around 6 a.m. and started typing emails on my cell phone. And I'm like, what the hell? So I pulled the chart. I'm like, Mars in Virgo.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can finally get down to my work.
Yeah. It's good for house cleaning.
Yes.
Mars in
Yes,
Virgo.
it is. And as will that new moon in Cancer coming up. But I think I'm hoping that it will calm down the heat that we've been seeing around the world. There's so much that got started last weekend that is not going away. So it's not going to miraculously disappear. But Mars in Leo was really pouring fuel onto the fire.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And making everybody very excitable because it was on Regulus, the King star, plus that square to Uranus was like, launch it, baby. And Mercury's out of bounds. So everybody was very fiery. Yeah.
And not listening.
And
not thinking clearly sometimes. I'm seeing that Mars-Uranus square tends to trigger things. It's the trigger point. It's not causal. If there's nothing that's exacerbating in people's lives, it's calm. But once it triggers, it can really go.
Right.
I wanted to post before we go into the summer solstice. I lived in Minnesota for a long time. And
I was thinking of the shootings.
Yeah, it was. Now, I did the chart for noon on Washington, D.C., the day that it was incorporated as a state. But it's really interesting. And you see Minnesota as this nice, sedate state half the time. But it's actually quite radical. And we have quite a radical as far as making things happen. What we see, we often talk about Minnesota nice. That Minnesota, they'll be so nice to you. Like someone said, they'll give you directions anywhere except to their house. There's a great privacy about themselves. Or the classic Minnesota joke of, did you see the one about the farmer who loved his wife so much he almost told her? And that Mars and Scorpio down there at the bottom of the chart, directly opposed Jupiter. And Jupiter-Uranus conjunction natally. And Uranus was an exact Uranus return for this weekend when...
Oh, wow, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Exact year. I mean, like 44 to 45. I mean, we're seconds, minutes. It was 28 to 28 and directly opposed that Mars.
Right. And it was a Mars-Uranus square. So it was
right.
Activated.
Mars-Uranus squaring, all of that, Mars squaring Mars.
Right. And Mars squaring natal Uranus.
Yeah. And Uranus. I mean, it was really tight aspects for the upheaval, but also for the response. Everybody showed out for the for the rallies. I mean, the place was packed considering that they canceled the rallies because they were afraid of this shooter still being loose.
Mhm. And they were
So,
like, "We'll take him on if he shows up," right? Yeah.
yeah, they were taking him on when he shows up, and they were just like, we need to make this point. We're not stopping here.
Right.
But it was a terrible loss. And it was a miracle that more people didn't die because the
Apparently,
man,
he went to 2 other houses before he started shooting. One of them was out of town, and the other one wasn't home.
right?
One was out of town on vacation, so there was a whole plan there. Yeah.
Venus was right on the Pluto, a Venus to the Pluto in the natal chart of the state. So we have Venus sitting, what the people brought, the state of Minnesota responded with love, support to each other for across the boundaries. They really came together, which was beautiful.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing, we'll take this one. This is Minneapolis, the chart for Minneapolis, born on a full moon. St. Paul is much earthier, but Minneapolis was founded. You have Minneapolis was originally all the Lutherans. St. Paul was all the Catholics. That was the original separation. But now it's, St. Paul is the capital. Minneapolis is the financial center. But Minneapolis has Venus at 1 degrees of Aries. So that Saturn-Neptune conjunction was exactly conjunct the Venus.
Yeah.
Again, both of them got, strong Venus aspects to them at the time, which was pretty powerful.
And also,
That
it was a woman killed, right? So
was a woman killed, a loved woman.
yeah.
And Jupiter was squaring that Venus as those two sat right on it.
Yeah.
So I thought that was some pretty powerful examples of what was happening. Now, Mercury trined into the lineup here. The police responded really quickly and made things happen. It was also a little girl that called the police. Was the 9-year-old daughter of the first 2 people that were shot, who called the police, and then the police came to their house and then went to check the other representatives in the area.
Wow.
She was 9 years old. Her parents had both been shot many times.
No return. Yeah.
And so I wanted to add within that. So what was America going through at this time? At the time of the shooting, the moon was sitting right on June 14th at 1:30 in the morning when the rampage began. The moon was exactly conjunct our Pluto, 27 to 27, which I thought was pretty interesting. And we have, the sun was on our Mars within 2 degrees. And the Saturn and Neptune are coming down to the IC for the natal chart for the time we have down for that, which, we see that whole shift, the Saturn, Neptune, and Aries. I'm seeing this kind of re-idealization of the military. The police really came through. They were the good, some of the good guys, but all of the protests that are going on, beautiful protests, may I say, but there's a idealization, Neptune, of on one side that Aries protest spirit, on the other side the military awfulness that's going on in the Mideast and around the world.
Right.
So what are you seeing with that, Anne?
Well, I've been really watching that Mars as a finger of God. It's forming a finger with the Pluto and the Saturn Neptune. And of course, one of the complaints was the military hadn't been serious enough during the parade in Washington. So I was like, interesting, because Mars was still in Leo. They were playing, they were waving, they were happy. It wasn't like we're the scary military. They were like, hey, we're out, we're having a parade, which you normally think of. I mean, I love parades. I'm Aquarius rising. I go to them all the time. I heard somebody going, parades are old fashioned. I'm like, not in New York. We have parades every week, right? So I love parades. And so that Mars and Leo forming the quincunx to the Saturn, Neptune, and the Pluto, the finger of God, but then it went into Virgo, this morning when I woke up, I was 6 in the morning. I was like, no, let me text things. But Mars is also on Regulus, the king star. So one of the things we saw was people responding in this kindness way in the face of, death, literally, and also saying, hey, what are we fighting for? What do we believe? And that Mars and Leo, the no kings protest was also the feature of the 14th. So it was a busy day because we had Iran and Iraq, Iran and Israel doing their thing. And then we had this energy. And then we had the G7, which was, Trump bailed on, but it was also his birthday party. And they didn't have protests in Washington. They had them around the country. So it's a very finger of God kind of energy. The moon, Pluto.
I agree.
How are we doing this? What are we doing? What is our, like having a clear vision, Mars and Leo on Regulus, what is our vision of how we're going to take action? Right.
Also, the moon in Capricorn had an effect too.
Yeah.
I think the way they captured the shooter in Minnesota
Quickly.
Yeah.
very quickly, and he took responsibility in a certain sense. He said, "Okay, I give up.
I did it."
And that's really Capricorn says that's what you have to do.
Take responsibility for it. Yeah.
That's if a Capricorn that does take responsibility for something. That's where you see the higher note of it.
Right.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting watching the Jupiter go through. It's a Jupiter return for the country coming up in the next few weeks. There's a lot going on that's asking us to be more ourselves than ever.
Yeah.
There's many stories about that parade, which was painful. That the fact that they weren't when they normally rehearse, but they were saving money, so they didn't rehearse. And that's what you get. But also that the word went out that you would not get in trouble if you were not super on target. That was their way of protesting this misuse of funds and this misuse of the military. And that their birthday party had been hijacked because it was also the birthday party for the Army.
Right. Yeah. So we're going to respond and we're going to play and have a good time. And they were waving and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So, yeah. Which, of course, is that finger of God. Like, you're supposed to do it Saturn, Neptune, and Pluto goes, nah, not so sure. I think I'm going to do it my way. And then Uranus, of course, it's not there yet, but it's in a trine to the Pluto. It's an out of sign trine activated by the Mars. So the out of sign trine goes, yeah, I think I want to do it my way. It's the Frank Sinatra song. Regrets I have a few, but then again, I did it my way. So that Mars is like, I'm doing it my way. And that's kind of what we're seeing, with Netanyahu. I haven't really followed that closely because I just was saying a lot of prayers. He's a Mars and Leo. Trump's a Mars and Leo. Israel's a Mars and Leo. So they're all having their Mars returns and setting up the next 2 years. So
yeah. And it's a mess.
Yeah. Well, it's chaos. Mars square Uranus is chaos. Yeah.
And what we can hope that this starts to shift. Now, I'm looking at how many planets we have at the moment coming back to today. At that, Jupiter at 1 degrees, Mars at 1 degree, at 0 degrees. Uranus is about to be in a few more weeks 0 degrees Gemini, Pluto at 3, Saturn, Neptune at 1 and 2. All my clients are coming in with planets at 0 to 3 degrees, and they're just being rung like a bell. And one planet after the other. And you say, well, and every day I watch the moon go through the signs. One day, no aspects. The next day, 20,000 aspects as it changes sign. Just kind of to watch it. But there's so conflicting aspects that sometimes I'm seeing people go like, I know things have to change, but I feel like I'm caught in a windstorm and I don't know which way to go. And let's because so much instructions are coming to you at once from all the different planets. You can't make them all happy.
Can't make them
So
Right.
all
it's
happy, right?
yeah, so you're kind of working with it. What, if people have one, this is a good piece, for anybody who's got planets at 0 to 3 degrees,
Mhm.
what advice can we give them, to not run off in all directions, but to kind of listen carefully and see how they sort out and what will move them forward.
Some of those aspects will be unfortunate and have some effects that you don't like, but look for the other ones because that 1 and 2 degrees are going to do something else somewhere else in the chart. That's the advantage of having so many things the same.
Time.
So you have to be conscious of what's working and what's not, and put the energy where it'll work.
Right. Right. Yeah, that totally makes sense. Yeah. And also, I say it to people if they have a lot at 28, 29, because all these planets that are in there, Uranus, Neptune, and Saturn are all going back. They're going to get in and do a little dance until the end of August, and then they're all going back into these signs,
Yeah.
the Pisces and the Taurus, for us to kind of revise. Pluto's in for good for true for 20 years, but the other ones, and Jupiter's not going back, but the other three, which are the chaos energies. And the other thing to remember, the babies born in the 60s had the Uranus-Pluto conjunction, which was transform the culture, women's rights, civil rights, gay
Mid
rights,
60s, yes.
Vietnam War protests, and now Uranus and Pluto are going to be trining each other 5 times, and it's an opening trine. So they're 5 times between now and 2028. So it's really about, back then we had this rebellious energy involving Uranus, Saturn, and Pluto.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're having Uranus and Saturn and Pluto in a new configuration. Throw in Neptune for good measure, throw in Jupiter for fun. So we're getting the new vision that we want to go back and say, what was my vision from that time that I want to carry now forward? Because the Saturn-Neptune initiates a new 38-year cycle for all of us. And it's the apex of what's called a minor grand trine between the Uranus to the Pluto, which is the one from the 60s 5 times. And they both, Uranus and Pluto, both sextile the Saturn-Neptune. Saturn-Neptune's at the midpoint, saying, take that dream you had for the collective and understand how to change towards it. And once Uranus gets out of Taurus, we won't feel so tied down because he hates being in Taurus. Once he gets into Gemini, which is July 7th, he's going to be like, woohoo! And, we're all going to go, woohoo, all summer long. And then we get to September, we're going to go, whoa, 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 whoa.
So the fall will definitely be a review session.
Yeah.
That, and remember that Obama came in under the square of Uranus, Pluto.
Right.
And there was a time, where we felt like that change was all happening again. 5 squares between those two. But that, was a square. This is a trine. We might be able to take it farther.
Yeah.
As it really kicks in over the next couple of years.
We can definitely take it farther if we're clear about the structure and the vision we want to build. So that's
right.
our goal.
And we don't drop the ball.
We have to be, well, even if we drop the ball, we have to go, I dropped the ball, let me pick it up. What is my vision?
Right.
And if you found your klutzy, because Uranus is Pluto, Saturn, Neptune, I've been dropping shit all over the place. I'm like, what is going on? I guess I want to break that bowl because it's a very dynamic electric energy. So it can wake you up in the middle of the night like it did with me last night. Mars went into Virgo, formed that quincunx, and I went writing those letters. I'm like, it's 6 a.m, but I wrote the letters and then I went back to bed, right? So I went back to sleep. I didn't get out of bed. I wrote them in bed, but that's the bad part of
Hi,
sleep.
Daniel. Wonderful. And here we are with the Pluto. This is the summer solstice. That is exact at 10:42 p.m. this Friday night.
Yep.
And so when the sun enters Cancer, conjunct Jupiter, which is wonderfully expansive, but this combination squares the Saturn-Neptune.
Yep.
So it's kind of the best of times, the worst of times. It's full of expansion, and we're deeply aware of the big existential angst of this life, of this time in history.
Yeah.
And that they quincunx at Pluto, and it's but they are being sextiled by that Mars. So there's that yod being formed by Mars, Pluto, and that Saturn-Uranus taking the heat. It's going to stay pretty feisty through that time. Not so much individually. It's like that could just be a discomfort that gets us somewhere. But I
Mhm.
think that the big conflict places won't go away.
Right. And then there's a secondary yod with Pluto,
Yeah.
Mars,
Mhm.
and the sun Jupiter, right?
Hmm.
Where Pluto's the apex, and he's like, who's your tribe? Who's your community? Who are you
Who's
going
your
to do this?
baby?
Who are you going to do this with?
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
A double yod.
A double yod that's focused because they share that leg. That Pluto Mars leg is shared. Now,
Yep.
the Pluto Mars leg is actually a little helpful because when it's a square, it's like craziness. But when it's a quincunx, it says, are you really sure you want to do that? And then you go, yeah. Or you do it and then you go, I probably shouldn't have done that. What should I do instead? Because Virgo is going to second guess, and it's answering to Mercury in Cancer out of bounds. But Mercury's also on the world point, the Cancer,
Hmm.
the world point. So what I was thinking of when we were looking at the Minnesota charts, Heather, was Amy Klobuchar and the other senator, Smith, I believe it is, from Minnesota, were both really mad at Mike Lee for his tweet. And so there's a
Yeah.
picture of her confront I don't know which one's this. I think Amy's the senior senator. So the junior senator, was a picture of her confronting Mike Lee. And Amy Klobuchar is like, I'm going to confront him when I get back to the Senate because what he tweeted was obnoxious and difficult and horrible. And it was about my friend. And
Right.
he heard all of the Minnesotans, to your point about, they're very friendly, but they're like, yeah, no, you hurt my friend. You hurt all the Minnesotans that you hurt by saying it that way.
Yeah.
Where's your, and we didn't do it, we didn't get enough condemning out when Nancy Pelosi's husband got beaten with that hammer. People were allowed to run wild. And with this one, it's kind of, maybe it's different because it was a woman that was killed, but it also is like, really? This is how we're going to do our politics?
Pasta. Right. Yes, that's a powerful combination. Now, we have a question from someone who wanted to ask about moving, and we're going to get on to just do that, and maybe we can close with a Saturn-Neptune meditation. Mark?
From Mark, our meditation.
Okay.
Mark, our wonderful person. So, I was looking at Daniel was asking about moving, and you can certainly see why. We talked about people who have degrees, planets at those early degrees, and how they're being aspected. And so it's like, should I move here? Should I move there? Where should I move? And we see that Mars, the moon, Mars is coming right to hit that moon. Uranus will be squaring that moon all summer. It's going to come give him a break and then start again. So we see him definitely moved, relocated by next spring, but probably by this fall with the way this is cooking.
Yeah.
And that's not easy for a Cancer to move. So we see that kind of working on him. Venus, it looks like Venus is heading to the midheaven. So it looks like work will be good wherever they go. And to give themselves some room, that Saturn-Neptune is directly opposite his moon. So it's like, what do I want? I don't know. Where do I want to go? Now, it turns out that we can't put, I haven't figured out how to get a map into a PDF file. Pardon me. Daniel, I will email you a copy of the chart. But what we do have, I just wanted to let you know. Do you have any more comments for him on how to handle these transits while I'm pulling up that solar map?
Well, I think that, I would really focus on, he's got that moon in Virgo, so that's got a little bit of anxiety to it also.
Mhm.
And it wants to try it out before he actually goes there. So I would give himself permission to, kind of check it out. Plus, he's having Pluto on his Mars and his part of fortune. So I would be like, well, are you walking away from some good work opportunities? Or are you feeling, if you move, because Mars rules his ninth house, that I'll actually have better work opportunities with moving. So that Pluto Mars is an interesting aspect because natally Mars rules his living in a foreign place, but his money from other people, and it rules his home. So that's I want to leave. I want to leave. But natal Pluto is where is my natal Pluto? Natal Pluto is in Libra, down in the fourth. So does partner want to move, or is he kind of feeling like he needs to push? Plus the
And right now, he's living right on his Pluto on the IC line. So
Okay.
I would say up California to the West Coast, it puts this as the IC, and I'd say get out of there. It's the
That's why he
Pluto
wants to
is
move off.
very depressing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
it can be
So
very depressing.
so he
Um,
wants to move. Okay. Yeah.
Right, and the moon on the he's got moon on the ascendant from about New Orleans up through Minneapolis and on a curve. So Texas, the east coast side of Texas, which he asked about, is definitely part of that. Go the east side of Texas, and then within 200 miles of the Mississippi, because it's Jupiter on the ascendant through Miami and Atlanta, and then moon on the ascendant through New Orleans up to Minneapolis. And so that's the area from Texas, the whole kind of eastern Midwest has the best transits. I'll send a copy of the chart, the map to you.
Yeah. What I do with that, Heather, is I copy and paste it into a Word document and then I save it as a PDF.
Okay, thank
That-
you. I will try that next time.
That may because it goes in as some kind of JPEG. It doesn't let you.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Thank you. I will do it that way.
Mhm. Technology chat. That's the Mars and Virgo. Quinn Conn. I don't know how to do it. Mars and Virgo. Paste and save as a PDF. Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Mhm.
Wonderful. So, and again, final note to people, I'd say love your loved ones. Be honest. Don't pour fuel on the fire, because the sparks we light now can be, can light something deep and turbulent as we're reorganizing our approach to fire for the next few years.
Right.
Anne, anything else you'd like to add for this week?
No, just really breathe deeply. Breathe deeply. It's a very, I mean, people are like, when is it going to end? I'm like, not for a while. Just take your, I always cite the Sisyphus, you're rolling the rock up the hill. And remember, he rested when he walked down. You don't have to run down the hill to get to the rock. You can sit on the hill and rest a little and then go down to the rock because you're going to roll it back up again. So
I like that.
Take your rests where you get them,
Mm-hmm.
including naps. Naps are very helpful right now because you might not be sleeping at night. You might be doing battle with on the astral plane. I went to the dentist last week and he goes, so you're grinding your teeth at night? I said, probably. He goes, all right. So he hit me up to get a bite plate so I don't crack my teeth open. And he said, see the little fractures here? And it's got this magnifying thing. I'm like, fractures in my tooth from Donald Trump? Oh my God, give me the bite plate. I said, I wore a retainer as a kid. I will wear the bite plate because I'm grinding my teeth at night because I'm battling on whatever battling I'm doing out there.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing. Naps are helpful if you get tired because this is very intense energy and it can feel like your little drain hole opens and all your energy just drains out into a puddle underneath you. Yeah. Saturn, Neptune. Yeah.
That your oil is leaking. And Mark, would you like to help us close
Yeah,
this?
let's take a look at Saturn, Neptune. Look at your own chart for early Aries, first and second degree of Aries, because that's where this conjunction is happening. So take a moment to sit well, don't slouch, sit tall. Take a deep breath into your belly. Exhale. Take a deep breath into your upper chest. Exhale. And now think about Saturn and Neptune and how Neptune promotes the idealism, the dream, and everything that you want it to happen, whether it's a fantasy or not. And then Saturn is there creating a structure for it. So you can allow yourself to believe that your dreams are going to find structure and then look in your chart, think of where that first and second degree of Aries is, and see how you can apply this creating of a structure for the dream within that area of your chart. Take a deeper breath in, open your eyes, and we're back.
Hey, thanks, Mark. That was great.
Thank you.
A
And
little nap in the chair.
Yeah, that's good.
And so, everybody, we'll see you all next week. We hope to get to a few more charts next week if the politics are less outrageous. But we always put that first because that's for everybody. But we try to make everything a teaching moment.
Right.
So if you have, we are several weeks behind, but if you have anything that you want, you can mail a chart to me at starcodes.heartcodes@gmail.com. And I will see you. I'll see you all next week. And you can reach Anne, Mark, or me for private readings anytime.
Okay.
Wonderful.
Bye.
Take care.
Thanks
And
for
thank you
tuning
all
in.
for watching. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Be careful out there.
Mars-Uranus.
Wise
Let's
Uranus.
see.